Wow, okay. So the student, for putting words together in a sentence, we say modim anachnu lach. Okay, so for your wife cooking for the first time in a month, we say modim anachnu lach. Very nice. So for holiday weekend with girlfriend, we say modim anachnu lach. I had a nice birthday weekend, as did Eliana, because our birthdays are 3 days apart. We went to Mount Vernon and the zoo, and I don't remember what else, and a hike, and it was nice. Call Your Mother Bagel Deli. Lots of good things for our shared birthdays. My birthday itself, I still had COVID, but then afterwards, we celebrated together. So we say modim anachnu lach. Yeah, yeah. Wow, wow. Yeah, yeah. So for finding these old videos of piano recitals of a then 5-year-old, I mean, she's an adult now, right? Yeah, yeah. So for the tear-causing home videos, we say Modim Anachnu Lach, a walk down memory lane. For all these gifts, we sing your praises and we say thank you, God, thank you. A colleague, once told me, or recently told me, the story that I'm going to adjust slightly, but all the general idea is true. So a colleague once told me about a conversion student of theirs who, in sharing her life's journey and why she came to Judaism and whatnot, she herself, the student, told this story about how when she, a few years prior, her friend's friend, who she was also friends with, passed away. And so the student was struggling, right? This person she knows passed away. She's struggling. Her friend is mourning. And then her now fiance, came in and just knew exactly what to do. And they're grieving, and he cooked them meals. And he didn't just cook the meals, he cooked some meals to freeze for the friend so that the friend could have it later. After, as the grief continues, they would have this food. And he listened, and he just listened. He was present to hear the venting and the grieving and the crying without saying anything, extreme, like, oh, it all happens for a reason, right? Or anything like that. He just listened. And so the main character of the story, the conversion student, eventually asked her fiance, how do you know how to do all this? You must have gone through so much grief of your own, or had so many people pass away, or maybe you're trained in this. How do you know how to do all this? And he replied simply, well, I'm Jewish, and this is what Jews do. And she was just blown away, right, about how he knew exactly how to take care of people during this grief. And that, I think, helped spark part of her journey into Judaism. Now, that's not, of course, to say that other people don't know how to do these things, but there is something Jewish about taking care of people in times of grief. I like to say, and Eliana, I don't know which of us said it first, Eliana or me, but we like to say that Jews do two things really, really well, and that's weddings. Jewish wedding is a lot of fun, and also rituals around death, right? The idea of this really intense grief at the cemetery, and then into 7 days of mourning, followed by another 23 days, 30 total of still mourning, but less so, and then into the year. And it gets gradually easier, as healthy grief in theory does as well. And during all of that, what do? We support each other. We come in with food. We come in with community, with support. And it's something that we've unfortunately, as a community, had to do a lot this past week. We've had these past 2 weeks, but really this week and moving on into next week, with 3 deaths in the community, we've done this. We've seen it around us. We've seen that support. And so what have we done these past 2 weeks? What do we do in general? We turn to each other. We turn to each other in love. We turn to each other in support and in comfort, just as we've done this week and just as we will continue to do. And so why do we turn to each other in love? Why do we do this? I think there's 2 ways you could approach it. And that's what our Torah portion this week says. So we're in Parshat Trumah, which is full of instructions for building the tabernacle, building God's dwelling place on earth. And we read at the beginning of the portion, Daber el b'nei Israel, tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts for me from every person whose heart is so moved. Whose heart is so moved. Bring me those gifts if your heart is moved, and we'll build the tabernacle. There's this idea of hearts being moved, of compassion, right? Of your heart turning towards someone else, your heart turning upwards towards God. But Rabbi Ovadia ben Yaakov Sforno, he goes by Sforno, he was a 16th century Italian rabbi. He makes a note that this contribution, right, they're giving these gifts to build the tabernacle, but they're not tzedakah, he is keen to say. Right, tzedakah is an obligation, and these people, our Israelite ancestors, were giving gifts voluntarily. Their hearts were moved, so that's a voluntary offering. And so we see that in Judaism, right? We see things that we have to do or things we want to do, things that are mandatory and things that are from the heart. And both are powerful. The tzedakah type, the things that we have to do, we do because, well, we're Jewish. That's what Jews do. And there's the things that we want to do, but also because we're Jewish and because our faith encourages us to. And then we say, well, I want to do this. And as I've seen this week, as BJC does, not only this week, but in general, as Judaism says, we do this. We do these 2 things, whether we're donating to charity or serving our congregation through volunteerism or advocating for the needy or attending Shiva. When we do this, whether it's out of obligation, because we have to do, or because it's from our hearts, because we want to do, either way, they are acts of love. Because the nice thing about Jewish mitzvot, about commandments, is that even when we have to, it's still in theory about turning our hearts and doing the right thing. And so when we bring our offerings of love, just like the Israelites, we build a mishkan, we build a dwelling place for God. When we bring our hearts, when we do what Jews do, God dwells among us. And I think that this notion, especially of bringing offerings of love, is especially important tonight and this weekend. Because if you haven't seen, there's a small faction of alt-right, neo-Nazi, white supremacist extremists have dubbed this weekend, really tomorrow, but the weekend, tomorrow, a national day of hate. A national day of hate. Thankfully, we spoke with Officer Blow outside. We planned ahead to make sure that we're a little extra vigilant, but more importantly, I think many Jewish groups and I think ally groups across the nation have took this National Day of Hate and transformed it into a Shabbat of peace, not hate. That's what we're calling this weekend, Shabbat of peace, not hate. One in which we celebrate being Jewish. One in which we're not intimidated by hate. Instead, one in which we express that fundamental Jewish idea of love. Love of God, love of the Jewish people, love of the world, love of Torah, and love of this community. This is a weekend to say we will not be intimidated by hate, but instead we will turn to each other in love, just as we do when we support each other in times of grief, just as we do when we try to make the world a better place, and just as we do when we come together in community. Why? Why do we do this? Why do we come together in these ways? Why do we turn to each other in love? Because that's what Jews do. So when we do this, we as a community, When we, like our ancestors, do this, then we build a Mishkan. When we do this, we build a place where God will dwell among us. When we do this, we build a world of love. And so we turn now to our handout, page 2, number 7, as we talk about that world and we sing about that world of love. Olam chesed yibaneh, I will build this world of love.